All right, hey traders, TG Watkins here. Let's make sure we got everything up and running. Looks like we're good in the Moxie room and then up on Facebook and YouTube. Hope everyone is doing well out there. It is starting to become an interesting market out there. It's been pretty slow for quite some time. The indices are doing well, and I have a feeling that it is mostly the mega caps that are holding the market up. So we are starting to see some developments. We've got the CPI that just came out. It was like a tick higher than what people forecasted. Basically, it was neutral in the morning, then came down, then we came up, and then it's just still a whole lot of sideways, and the internal's not doing too much. So let's dive into this. If you guys are new to me out there on Facebook and YouTube, you can come out over here, check out simplertrading.com and /Moxie, or you can come over to profitpilot.com, and that would be a great place to start finding out more about me and the Moxie indicator if you guys are interested. All right, so we come on over here, and for the most part, the market has been just very, very sideways. It was fairly easy to call the top up here. The market got really, really overbought, and it had been going in a really nice clip for a solid 2 months, basically right here when the debt ceiling crisis got resolved. So that was that situation. The market was on a tear. And then, yeah, we were looking forward to start pulling back at some point, and we could even see here on the hourly chart, there was our Moxie price trigger, and then we had an inverse trampoline move, and that is what brought the market down. That's fine, because around that area, we were looking for things to actually work their way back down. All the internals were too bullish. We needed to see them cycle back down, same with the put call ratio. And basically, we got that. And then we got a little bit of a bounce in through here. That was another thing that generally was expected. Like, okay, at some point after you stop going down, you're going to get a bounce. And then from the bounce, we look for the second pullback to test support and see where it's going. And honestly, from about here, this range, a lot of names have really not been doing much. So the whole market has just kind of been going sideways, bouncing around in this range, really not doing too much. I do have a bullish lean because, as you can see, the market's not falling apart. It's really just going sideways. So for the most part, that should be good. We should be seeing that as maybe consolidation, flagging, trying to find some support at some point, and the fact that it's not falling apart should generally be pretty good. We could also see that price was underneath the hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is above zero. It's struggling a little bit, but it's still above zero. And then the other thing I'm noticing is we had the Moxie indicator on the 15-minute time frame back here. It was very spread, and that means that's not very strong. They don't really agree with each other. And what I've been watching is we're trying to figure out, hey, what is price going to do with these moving averages? They mostly going sideways. And now the Moxie indicator is starting to get a little bit tighter, staying green. And as I said, the market's not falling apart. So I do have a bullish lean to the market, but there's just not great participation out there. Just not much has really happened. As I said, we had CPI today, we have PPI tomorrow, and then we have the FOMC next week. And I thought maybe CPI would be a bit of a catalyst. It might be. But at this point, gosh, maybe the market's just waiting for the FOMC to see what they're going to do about either raising interest rates or not, and what their guidance is going to be. Some of the other things I look at, we do at least still have the 8 over the 21 here. I do see that the Moxie indicator is red and below zero. So either this is going to be a terrible thing, and as an inverse trampoline, this is going to pull the market down, or what it can mean is we've been going sideways for so long that the Moxie indicator has just faded away because the market's been going sideways. And when you go sideways, there is no momentum. And so the Moxie indicator, which is a momentum-based indicator, tends to just kind of go down to zero. And so that's what we could be seeing there. We're not entirely sure yet which way that's going to resolve, because we do have somewhat bullish signals here on the hourly, and we have somewhat bullish signals here on the 15, and we're also mostly going sideways. So a bit of a mixed situation in through here. And then if we look at the RSP, and then we can look at the IWM, because I'm trying to see about overall general participation. And you can see it's a different picture. The RSP actually looks more like the IWM, which makes sense because the RSP is equal weight, which captures most of the small stocks, whereas the SPY is weighted, and I think it was 10 stocks make up 40% of the S&P. So, you just need 10 stocks to do decently, and it's a completely different picture. Now, when looking at the RSP, I'm looking at this and basically saying, hey, there's a double bottom. I'm also looking here and saying, there's some positive divergence in through here. The other thing I'm noticing is that the Moxie indicator, and this is really where the strength of the Moxie indicator comes in as a way of a tool to communicate to you and tell you what's going on inside. This is why we designed it with these stair steps, is because it can tell you how much energy or how quickly something is happening or changing. You could see that there's a lot of energy in through here because those stair steps kept going up and up and up in big, big steps. Now, on the opposite side, what we're starting to see is, notice here, see how those stair steps are starting to get thinner and not as big. You can literally see the amount of momentum and energy starting to change in through the Moxie indicator through this view. And so I look at this and I say, oh, there we go. And I say that you can see that, yes, momentum started to come out, but then look, it's basically going sideways. There is a lack of momentum to the downside. So I would imagine that sooner than later, or at least at some point, that this is actually going to start turning around because you can see that the direction of momentum is kind of slowing in this area. Not to mention, we have a higher low on the Moxie indicator compared to basically an equal low on the RSP. And I'm seeing the same general story on the IWM. You can see it looks almost identical. Basically double bottom, positive divergence, and you can see that slowdown in the momentum for the hourly Moxie indicator. We have squeezes all over the place, so I'm leaning to the upside. Of course, we could be surprised, but I'm leaning to the upside and saying, I think all of this looks fairly good because if we also look here at the monthly and weekly, the weekly has really all it's done is just pull back into support. And that support has generally started to turn up, and we do have a fresh Moxie price trigger. So I'm leaning to the upside, but I look around at individual stocks and I'm just not seeing a whole lot of traction. So we'll go through a couple names and I'll show you what that looks like. And so it's basically just frustrating a whole bunch of people out there. And it's like, okay, we're going to do something. You can't quite go short, can't quite go long because it's just a whole lot of chop out there. But Nick, let's see what you're up to. Yeah, good morning. Yeah, waiting on his market to choose a direction for sure. It's very frustrating. You're say watching the SQQQ since inverse trampoline move on Q still has me skeptical. Yeah, let's take a look at that real quick. Yeah, that daily chart, it's the same thing I talked about with SPY. There is technically an inverse trampoline move here on the daily chart. Now, the challenging part, as I said earlier, is we don't know if this is momentum just burning off and it will eventually turn back up, or if this is actually going to pull the market down and this is a pretty bad thing. It's a very mixed situation because on the hourly chart, we have the 50 over the 200. Technically, that's bullish. We also have the price below the 50 while the Moxie indicator is above zero. It's not totally confirmed yet, mostly because price is still going sideways, but for now, I'm kind of leaning more towards the bullish side on that. And so, yeah, that's mixed. And then we have the 8 over the 21 on the daily chart too, which is also bullish. Now, what we could do, let me see, if we go back here, here's kind of a situation. You remember back here, what was this, around 20, it was in 2020 or something. I think it was 2021. When is this? Yeah, 2020, right there. And you could see how we did have an inverse trampoline move here. And Nick, I know you've been around the Moxie indicator and stuff for a long time. So remember when I teach, the inverse trampoline move can either be a short or it can mean don't go long right now. And back here in 2020, it meant don't go long right now. Sure, yes, you could have caught a quick move, but the Moxie indicator was saying, hey, that's not going to be the move. And you could see that it then pulled back, basically needed to do a double bottom. And, the Moxie indicator was looking pretty rough, but eventually it recovered and then started to go back up there. And this is why I'm giving a little bit of deference to, more sideways action as opposed to the market actually rolling over. This is why, because you can see, yes, Moxie indicator was still below zero, even though it got up here, but look what it did. It wasn't really ready to go up. It went sideways right there. And when was it ready to go? When the Moxie indicator finally crossed over zero. So the Moxie indicator does do a pretty good job about timing wise. And that's why if we come over to where we are now, I'm looking at this and saying, well, there's a possibility maybe this is putting in a floor. It's really too early to say much, but I look at this kind of lower trend line that the market has been sitting on, and I look at the internals. The internals have all pretty much cycled down and not going lower. The IWM, the RSP looks like they've kind of cycled down. Let me show you the I'll show you the internals. That A50R. Oops. Too many. There we go. Look at this and say the internals, they're not getting worse. They're really just kind of hanging out in through here. They're just hanging out. We even have squeezes on the internals. Look at this. Yeah, big squeezes. And we still have a potential trampoline move on the hourly chart. And if we go over to stock charts, which if you guys are interested, oh, and let's see, I think it was Morgan over in the Moxie room. So thanks for joining. Looks like you're new to Moxie and you just picked it up on TradingView. So yeah, I just want to let everyone know that we do have the. Oh, Mirza, you want me to stream right now into the options room? Yeah, I can do that if you need. Sure. Give me just 2 seconds. Let's see. Yeah. Let me pull this over real quick. Let me refresh. Make sure everything is good. Okay. And then we'll jump into the options room. Mirza, how long do you want me to be in the options room? If you can give me that clue. Although I see is Danielle. Sorry for the interruption. Mirza, can you text me directly? Because can't. Okay. There you go. Looks like we're all good. Okay. Looks like that's fixed, so no problem. But we will carry on over here in the Moxie room and on Facebook, YouTube. So yeah, we've got the technology over here. Anytime we need to jump into a room and help somebody else out, we definitely can do that. All right, so let's get over here to this on stock charts. So remember, the Moxie indicator is available on stock charts, Thinkorswim, and TradingView. So I've kind of been calling this out right here, where we see the internals and they got down low, and that basically formed the bottom. Okay, and we do have that, but since then, yes, we've had the stocks over the 20-day moving average kind of stay up and elevated, but it's they haven't really gone anywhere. Same thing with the market. And if we look at the number of stocks over the 50-day and 200-day, it's like there's still just not much going on. So it's a bit of a mixed market. And then I was mentioning to the Moxie subscribers the other day, is like it's not great that new lows have been expanding when the market just kind of takes a breather. That's not the greatest thing either, because generally speaking, in a good uptrend, even if the market pulls back for a little bit, think about all these stocks that made new highs. We had a bunch of stocks make new highs. And then you think about moving up, like that. Well, a lot of stocks, they might pull back before they go up, but they're not breaking their previous lows. So when you start seeing the new lows expanding, that means that, even though they might go up like this, they're making new lows during the pullbacks. And then the market kind of goes up, and then they're making new lows as the market kind of goes up like that. And that's why we're seeing this bifurcation of new highs and new lows in this kind of thing. And it's definitely a tough signal to work with as far as that goes. It does not mean super great participation. So brighter side, you can take a look at SQQQ and all that stuff. I'd be cautious with that. Mostly the market is sideways, and I'm more geared to think that the market is likely to go up than down. So just kind of keep an eye on this, sure, but I don't think we can really convincingly say anything of either direction right now. I mean, even the VIX not doing much, so that's starting to fade, which is good. You could say there's a potential, let's see, potential trampoline move here on the daily chart, but I'm not going to put too much weight in that yet either. And if we look at the UVXY, there's just nothing going on here either. So it's really hard to even use some of these other indicators to see what's going on. It's just so blah right now. Gosh, even look at the internals. Look at this. What have we been doing for the last several days? I mean, practically nothing. And so even though the market's not falling apart and there are some names going up, you can't. That's just not like an all what is it? Tide raises all ships kind of thing. A rising tide. We don't even have that. We have a neutral tide. Definitely a slack tide. Yeah, and brighter side. So IWM looking concerningly weak at this critical juncture. I would say it's still neutral. Yeah, it's not looking great, but it's also just kind of not doing anything. And if we look back previously, we looked around in through here. Remember this area? Market wasn't looking too good. In through this area, market wasn't looking too good. And then what happened? It didn't go down, and then it started to go up, and that was that was the big move. That was a really big move right in through there. So that's why I'm kind of just saying, we need to be a little bit careful with this. If you're thinking downside, I'm like, I'm not so sure, because I am seeing some divergence here, and we are on some potential support, and it is at least in the upper 50%. Like, how about this? We look at here. Let me see if I can draw this better. Right there and right there, and we are in the upper 50% area of that range. So, that's why I'm still leaning a little bit more on the long side. You can see even right there. If you look at that, we're kind of in this upper area. Okay. So you just kind of step back, look a little bit, and you're like, okay. And also, I think the old adage is like, never short a quiet market. Never short a quiet market. And the other thing is, we can kind of look at the put call ratio. You think, well, do I want to go short? I don't know. Doesn't seem like that would be the greatest thing. Anytime the 10-day moving average of the put call ratio gets kind of high, it goes the other way. So yeah, I have a bias to the long side, but yeah, not much is working. So let's take a look at what you are looking at. We have UPSD. Yep, that's one that's been on my list for a while. Same kind of thing. Would you want to short this? I'm not sure I would be looking short, because if you look at the higher time frame, like, is this really, do you really want to short this? Yes, it came down pretty hard, but look, it's coming right back down into its previous price area, and you've got moving averages below you, and you have the Moxie indicator above zero, and you have the monthly moving average below you. And we even have the slow stochastic down at the bottom. And then we come over to the daily and the hourly. Sure, you got squeezes, but look, we got the Moxie indicator above us. Yes, the daily is below us, but that could start bottoming and turning. We're kind of at an area where, it's really just going flat. So I'm not sure I wouldn't want to short UPST. Let me kind of bring this up here, see if Sam's thing says anything. Yeah, even Sam's is giving bullish signals. Right there. It's in the lower part of the range. So yeah, I wouldn't want to short it. Let's see, TMC. What is this one? Oh, metals, huh? Okay. Yeah, same thing. Look, actually, that it looks a lot like UPSD, just from a chart perspective. Look, it's sitting right there on support, sitting right on support. And if you look at this, there has been a definitive change. And I've talked about this a lot over the last, several months. But look, there is a definitive change from here to here. There's a definitive, like, you can see it. There is a difference. Even you could even say, like, look at this. Actually, this looks fun. Check this out. Just draw a line. There you go. There's your difference. This was all downtrend. Now you're potential uptrend. So there's a difference, and that's what we're doing, is trying to figure out what is going on here. And it seems to me things could be resting before the next up move. I would love to see that. That's why I'm leaning to the upside, because this doesn't look like something I'd want to short. But has it happened yet? No. These things have not moved. So, maybe it's the calm before the big move, but nothing has given us a trigger or kicked off yet. Let's see, EOSE, for the big picture. Yeah, same thing. Same thing. Hasn't really gone anywhere, but it's also not going down. And if you look at that level right there, you can see kind of previous price here, and then it's over here. So, and the monthly chart looks okay, and hey, big volume, lots of volume coming into this. And then in through here, I know it looks pretty crappy. They were just not doing anything. Just not doing anything. but also not something I'd really want to short. I would not be interested in shorting this right in here, right in through here. Okay. So I'm either in cash or I'm trying to go long. And then let's see, FSR, Fisker, looking a little bit better. I think we talked about this with the Moxie group maybe 2 weeks ago. I said, yeah, probably done going down, but it's also not really doing much. You can see it's tried to go, it's tried to go. Now, is this the one? Could be, but we don't, we never know. But yeah, it could be. And then we come over, let's look at the higher time frame. I just don't think this is as mature as some of the other stocks. You can see it's just now trying to actually get in gear on the weekly chart, just starting. So I would be more interested in playing stocks that are a little bit more ripe, a little bit more developed. Yeah, top spin, there are squeezes all over the place. You can see exactly why. We've been talking about these things. They've just been hanging out, going sideways. There is not much happening. Let's see. IoT kind of popped up on earnings, but then it's pulled back. So unless you were willing to trade this into and around earnings, there really hasn't been a play. And you can see it got a little overbought and pulled back. So yeah, let's kind of just keep hanging on. Brandon, let's look at Meta. Same thing, neutral. They just neutral. Yeah, those mega cap names. I think it was Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta. Maybe Netflix to a lesser extent, they all had huge runs. Very unexpected, huge runs. And you know what? At some point, they ran a marathon and then they need to take a break. And now they're taking a break. So this is the question: is how long are they going to take a break for? And do they need to go down to find support, or do they need to go sideways to find support? We'll make it look a little bit closer on the hourly chart. This is why Brighter Side and I were both talking about potential downsides because of these potential inverse trampoline moves on the daily chart. Like, yeah, we see them, but we don't know if this is going to be it's going to be a bearish signal, or maybe it just means don't go long right now. And maybe what this thing wants to do is just kind of chop sideways for a little bit until it finally goes higher. Let me look at Netflix and see if that, yeah, like look at Netflix. Look at this. So you can see here that, yeah, negative Moxie price trigger and yes, inverse trampoline move. But if you look at this past one, it can also mean don't go long right now. And you can see here where price was trying to get over the daily 50, the Moxie indicator was below zero. It wasn't really a good short. That's not something I would try and actually short. That really looked more like just a consolidation until it was ready to go up. And look where the Moxie price trigger fired, right on time, right at the beginning of that move. And if you actually look at the hourly chart, the more precise entry was right there. There's your Moxie price trigger, right there, perfectly on time, absolutely on time. So that's why I look at this and say, the mega caps are taking a break because they ran for 3 months, and so did the market. And the market needs to digest that. Before it gets too frothy and overdone, it just needs to kind of take on the brakes and just hang out a little bit. So yeah, I would say sideways. And if we look at the monthly, weekly, just sideways. And you can see what that sideways action looks like on a longer term time frame. And we could be doing the same thing. And something like Apple too, had a big run. Yeah, they got some bad China news. But that's probably not going to stop them too much. But look, this was a huge run right there. Huge run. And it pulled away from most of the moving averages. And you know what it's doing? I'd say this is mostly consolidating for now. Doesn't look too bad. Could just be consolidating. It's coming back into the moving averages, on the higher time frame. So until we really see some gnarly stuff, and I know this was a pretty big move for China based on on Apple based on China news, sure. But I'll be very interested to see if this actually stops going down right around here. If it does, then basically kind of just expect and see if we can get some sideways action, and then maybe if we resolve back to the upside. But right now, the game is just hang out and wait. This is what the market's doing, and we have to be okay with that. Let's take a look at IonQ over here. And yeah, we've had some strong names. As I said, there are some names that are moving. This one has been a little challenging because almost every every moment of its life, it has been up here around the third ATR, which, yeah, it's very strong, but it makes it a little bit challenging to trade for what I do because it's like, man, this thing has basically been extremely bullish the entire time and basically locked you out of any kind of move. And now it's at a place like, yeah, now I'm at a double top, still at the third ATR, and now we're at the monthly third ATR. So it's just been an incredibly difficult place to try and get into some of this thing. You've got to be basically Johnny on the spot. And yeah, it's been one of the few names. There's the Moxie indicator right there. Moxie was right. But it's been one of the few names that has been going up. And so yeah, trying to find maybe those 10 names right now that are going up compared to the hundreds or the thousands that are just going sideways. It's tough to know which one's really going to go. Because even Palantir is another good name. Does not do anything. You know, I'd like to be bullish on this, kind of putting some marks on here, but it's also just not doing anything. But it's not falling apart either. So I'm not sure I'd want to short this. And maybe you could be long, but you'd have to kind of like hang out. And yeah, then let's see. Some other like comp is another one I'm kind of looking at and just hanging out, not really doing much, trying to see if this thing's gonna do one way or the other. And it's just not. DNA is another one. Not looking terrible. Just hanging out. So I hope you guys have some other hobbies. Go maybe work on that thing that you've been kind of meaning to, because this is a great time to either go back, you use on demand, Thinkorswim's on demand feature, and go back and actually practice. You know, if the market's boring and you want to trade the market, go practice. Or if you guys want to, go work on some other project, get some hobby done, go read a book, hang out with your family. It's a good time. The market's giving you a little bit of a vacation. Take it. Take it. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to be wrapping it up there. If you guys are interested, anybody else who's new out there, you want to check out more about what I do and the Moxie Indicator. Looks like we've got some new people in the Moxie room, which is great. But yeah, you can come in, $7 trial for 30 days into the Moxie trading room, and then you can pick up the Moxie Indicator, any other classes that I offer. But the indicator is available on TradingView, StockCharts.com, and Thinkorswim. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, and I will see you next week here. Otherwise, in the Moxie group, I'll see you guys in the options room in about 30 minutes. All right, see you then. Take